Here's Kelly. Using his imagination alone, he's able to pull off a threesome in class with his classmates Dominique and Sarah. Amazingly, they're stimulated too. But to understand the whole story, let's back up a bit. A few months earlier, one evening around midnight, an old van drives through the woods and a man named Pfluger gets out. He unearths a human bone in an ancient grave, and a bolt of magic strikes him, flipping him over the side of his vehicle. He immediately drives off with an evil laugh. Next we see Kelly being bullied outside a store by some jocks from his high school. They bullied him because of an eating disorder called pica, which makes him want to eat things that aren't food. His friend Dominique comes to his defense, but the jocks put Kelly upside down in a trash can, and one of them pours soda on him. They film the scene on their phones and post the video on the school website. Kelly feels humiliated, having been ridiculed like that, and in front of his crush Dominique. The next day, Kelly isn't looking very good and nibbles a pencil eraser from his locker. He learns that the video of him in a trash can has created a buzz at school, and all the students are laughing at him. Kelly gets sick because of his diet of ramen noodle lids and erasers. His mother calls a doctor to check him out, but the doctor says there's nothing he can do for him, because Kelly needs mental help, not just medical. Elsewhere, a crowd of people gathers around Pfluger. It turns out that he's a healer, and, despite his talk of snake oil, his magic works, and he can heal people. But unfortunately, he uses his power to make money. Pfluger calls an old woman to the front of the crowd to demonstrate. She's using a walker because of a pain in her back and legs. He cures her, and she throws her walker aside, proclaiming it's a miracle. The whole crowd applauds, and Kelly's mother comes to him to ask him to heal her son too. Next, a man named Red Elk approaches Pfluger, and he tells him that he knows Pfluger has stolen his powers from an ancient grave, and that in time the magic will turn against him and cause his demise. Pfluger rudely refuses to heed Red Elk's warning and leaves to heal Kelly. Later that day, Pfluger arrives at Kelly's house, but in his attempt to heal him he dies and passes on his powers to Kelly. After becoming aware of his new powers, Kelly feels much more bold and at ease. Later that day he stands up to one of the bullies. The bully tries to hit him, but only hurts himself. He tries to hit Kelly on the head with a piece of wood, but feels the pain of every strike he delivers. Kelly then finds work in a pizzeria, and when he returns home, he informs his mother of his new powers. She's astonished at first, then tells him not to tell anyone. The next day at school, Kelly discovers that if he eats something that belongs to someone else, that person will be affected by what he does to himself. Then, while sitting behind Dominique in class, her scrunchie falls out of her hair and onto Kelly's table. He picks it up and eats the tag before returning it to her. He starts fantasizing about her and gets horny, then fantasizes about Sarah, and she gets horny too. He has an orgasm in class, and so do the two girls. Kelly falls out of his chair and runs away, covering his pants. Next, Kelly and Dominique are at a bonfire party. Kelly is confronted by the bullies, stands up to them once again, and even laughs at one of them. Things calm down when Gus, the soccer team coach and father of two bullies, arrives and tells them to stop. After the party, the bullies see Kelly on the road home, chase him in their car and run him over. Brett is the only one affected by the magic, as he was driving. The others flee, then Dominique and Sarah catch up with Kelly. They ask him what happened, and he explains everything. The next day at school, Kelly and Dominique eat cake together and discuss the accident. She says the police think it was a malfunctioning airbag that caused the accident. They lay the foundations for a romantic relationship, when Dominique urges Kelly to ask her out. That evening, Kelly takes out the trash at his job at Grazi's pizza place, and is confronted by Red Elk about his powers. Kelly confirms his suspicions by telling him everything and hurries back to work. Later, the bullies wait for Kelly to leave his trailer, and when they think it's empty, they prank him by pulling the trailer off its foundation. This destabilizes it, and the gas pipe is ripped from the wall, filling the caravan with gas. Kelly's mother, napping on the sofa, is startled. She realizes she's trapped inside, and in her panic she breaks a lamp, causing a spark and igniting the gas, exploding the caravan. Kelly returns in time to try and rescue his mother from the rubble, but she's already dead. He carries her burnt body outside and falls to his knees in agony. Later, he lies in a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling in shock. He is unharmed, but as he has no next of kin, he will have to be placed in a foster home. Red Elk shows up at the hospital to tell the sheriff that Kelly has stolen some magic powers. The sheriff doesn't believe him, but Red Elk tells him he knows where to find him when he's ready to believe him. Later, at his mother's funeral, he steps away from the crowd to be alone and visits Flieger's grave. Dominique comes to him and tells him that he'll miss his mother, but that he has to go to a foster home. Then she kisses him. He later eats a leaf from a strange plant that grows on Flieger's grave and falls violently sick. The sheriff gives him information about his mother's death that points to foul play and no accident. On the way to the foster home, Kelly assumes from the sheriff's information that the bullies who were bullying him must have done it. His suspicions are confirmed when the bullies pass him by and give him the middle finger. Kelly jumps out of the car and disappears. The sheriff goes looking for him. Kelly realizes that the bullies are going to the creek and follows them for revenge. Seeing them swimming and drinking beer, he seizes the opportunity, first killing one of them by eating a piece of his shirt so that the magic affects him at a distance. Then he starts strangling himself with the rest of the shirt, causing the bully to drown. Kelly is forced to flee because one of them has gone to warn the sheriff. In the evening, Dominique looks out the window and her mother warns her to shut it, because she doesn't want to risk Kelly getting in. Just after she says this and leaves her daughter's room, Kelly appears at the window. Dominique tries to dissuade him from taking revenge, suggesting instead that he try to get a confession. But the next day, in science class, Kelly bursts in and demands a confession from one of the bullies. The bully tries to kill Kelly for accusing him of the murder by throwing acid in his face. But it's his face that instantly melts, and Kelly flees the scene. That night, Sarah, who is dating one of the bullies, tells him what she saw at the funeral, when Kelly had eaten those leaves and fallen ill. They assume the leaves are Kelly's kryptonite. They harvest a few to use against him. Later, Kelly spots two of the bullies and their father, Gus, on the soccer field. After stealing and eating clothes from the back of the sheriff's car, he faces them next and uses an electric drill on himself, when they tries to spray him with green liquid made from the leaves from Flieger's grave. He stops attacking because Dominique asks him to, and when he does, Gus attacks the sheriff and takes his gun. The bullies manage to spray Kelly and weaken him and tell his father to shoot him. While Kelly is weakened, Dominique cleans enough liquid from his shirt to mitigate the effects. Gus holds the gun to Kelly's head, threatening to kill him. The confrontation ends with Gus shooting Kelly in the head. The bullet turns around and kills Gus, but also his son, because Kelly still has a piece of his clothing in his stomach. Kelly gets up without a scratch, and Dominique blames him for everyone's death. She threatens to break up if he doesn't agree to accompany Red Elk and perform a ritual that will separate him from the power. He finally accepts and lowers his weapon. They are then taken by the sheriff and Red Elk to Flieger's grave to perform the ritual. Dominique reassures him that all will be fine. During the ritual, Kelly suffers greatly, but it has no effect because the power has been with him for too long and has become part of him. The only way to separate him from the power is to kill him. Kelly undoes his handcuffs and tries to escape with Dominique, but one of the police officers shoots them. Dominique dies instantly, but Kelly manages to survive thanks to his powers. He tries to save her, but fails. He eats Flieger's heart to renounce his power and accept death. The power leaves his body. He goes through a slideshow of all the deaths he's avoided, then drops dead with a bullet hole in his forehead. The movie ends as we get to know that Dominique wakes up in an ambulance and instantly recovers from her wounds. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting the like button.